Oh, your beard is bigger than I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I figured if I was going to do this Skype with you, like I have to like, kind of blend in, So that's why I was putting you off for so long. I was like trying to get the beard to grow out.
The documentary's out, so I watched it the day it came out, and I was thrilled. It was awesome. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
I'm a dude named Alex. I guess I sell records for a living. I sell records at Glass House Record Store in Pomona, California, which is, about like 30 minutes outside of Los Angeles. And I also build Coachella's on-site record store, like Coachella Music Festival. And that's like a giant record store out in the middle of the festival.
I know you said there's like 30,000 Coachella record show, right? Or record store.
Yeah. I try to bring out like 30,000 used records and then maybe like another 5,000 to 8,000 new, like, artists playing and, like classic sellers like Nirvana or Metallica or something like that,
Right. So the documentary is basically about you, how you curate that and how you go around the country and find records. How long have you been doing like your record road trips? Did you do it before you started doing Coachella, or have you been doing it for a while?
I've been going to like Austin record show for about 15 years in Austin, Texas. So I always did that road trip, and one of my buddies and I would always like just go up to Oregon or Seattle or, maybe not necessarily across the country or all over the country, but we'd go, we'd do traveling trips and stuff. But it wasn't until Coachella where I really started like going like across country and, huge trips.
I think you said you invest like half the year in Coachella.
Yeah, it's like, I probably travel like 4 to 6 months out of the year, like collectively, not all at once, maybe like 2 weeks here, a week here, a month here, 3 days there. But it probably like collectively is like 4 to 6 months. And then I spend a lot of time just like, several months prepping the store, pricing all the records, categorizing them in genre and, sleeving them and stuff like that. I pretty much do it all. I have a little help like sleeving, but everything else is pretty much just me all year.
That's crazy. That's so overwhelming to imagine. Pricing 1,000 records. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it takes me like several months, like I basically start like in December and I finish in like April. And I'm always like finishing like right on the wire, like days before I have to be out at the festival,
So were you pretty ready for it and then they canceled it or postponed it?
Yeah, so for the first time in like, I think I'm doing this 6 years now. For the first time in 6 years, I was actually ahead of the game. Like, I don't know, because we bought a really big collection in September, and it was like about close to 40,000 records, and it was all alphabetized in genres. So I was basically using that. I put some of it into the Glass House, but like most of it was going to Coachella. So since like it was already like alphabetized and in genre, like it kind of made it really easy for me to like knock out that part. So like for the first time ever, I was actually like probably going to be done with like a few weeks before Coachella. And then all this happened. So,
Now you're super ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the documentary, actually the first time I found out about you is when they contacted me to stop by my house. And I was like, I had just sold my whole collection. This was like 3 years ago. And I just was like, I don't think he's going to find much here. And so I just said no, but I wish it had been different because that would have been a lot of fun. It's a super interesting documentary where you go around and you go to private collectors and a lot of record stores to find the records that you want to be in the Coachella show. Do you go more to collections or shops, do you think?
Generally more shops, because basically I'm not like trying to get into like untouched collections or someone's, garage that, isn't really a record collector. They just had records since they were, buying records in the 70s or something. My job with Coachella is just to make like the coolest record store that we can possibly have. So like I kind of go to the shops and just buy all their cool records that I can find, what I think is cool or what I think will sell at Coachella. And, you know, like, it's more of a curating than, you know, anything else. And so like I could go, let's say like, I don't know, like some years I'll have like 60 copies of Fleetwood Mac Rumors and they all sell, you know, like I'll have like 30 copies of Smith's records, you know, and like what record store has 30 copies of Smith's records, you know? So again, and Coachella is not all about making money with the record store. It actually kind of breaks even or loses a little bit of money in the end, but like, it's just about being cool and having some, you know, cool place for people to go like during, you know, maybe they don't want to watch any bands at the moment or they need like some decompression zone area, you know? So again, it's just, so mostly shops and just like buy what I think is cool.
So, and there's a true art to that curating because, you know, I've been into a lot of shops to where it's obvious that the owner is just like super zoned in on punk rock or soul or whatever. And so there's a ton of that. And then everything else is just really thin, but it seems like you have a good grasp of all types of music. I know you said like one of the first records you bought was more of a punk rock thing, but I've heard you say your favorite record's Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. So that's a pretty wide space. You're into a lot of, is there any type of music you're not into?
I'm not really into like a lot of electronic music, you know, like electronic music from like the 60s to the 80s is cool, but like anything like EDM or, you know, like dubstep and like, you know, techno and stuff like that. House, like, you know, not really my thing. I do have a little bit of house music from like the late 80s and 90s, but for the most part, electronic music's probably the only music I don't really listen to. Everything else, classical, country, hip hop, like, you know, reggae, like, I mean, I listen to it all, you know? So, and that's the thing is like, since I like pretty much everything, I have like a basic knowledge of almost every genre. Obviously some genres I have like a bigger knowledge of, or, you know, a more deep knowledge of, but like, I'm not like a huge country music fan, but I know a lot about country music because like, I understand that like I have people out there that want country. So I need to know which country artists are cool and, you know, what they like.
Is there a lot of country out in California? Like, do you like, you roll up to an estate sale or something? Is there always country music?
There's a ton of country in California. I mean, country, like California was like, you know, like Bakersfield, California was considered like Nashville West, you know? So California had quite a lot of country. And in Los Angeles, there was a lot of like country type bands, you know, you had like Birds and Flying Burrito Brothers and stuff like that. And, you know, the Eagles and, you know, those are all like country tinged artists, you know, so country's always been kind of, you know, a thing in California.
Yeah. Here it's like every yard sales ton of country, but it's not the cool country like that. It's more, I don't know, Ernest Tubb and Conway Twitty and like, I don't know, that kind of stuff. It grows on trees down here, but those are dollar bin records. But so when did you start? Like, what got you into buying and selling records and dealing? I know you probably started collecting first. What started you into seeking records out to sell?
I started like when I was 14 at punk shows. I saw like I went to a punk show and saw some guy selling records from like lots of different little punk labels, and I kind of asked him, I was like, how'd you get all these? And he was like, oh, I just, you know, wrote to the labels and, you know, bought the records wholesale, you know, and that was that. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And so I wrote to a bunch of labels that I liked, and, you know, you'd buy their 7-inch for like $1.50 and you could sell it for $3 at the show, you know? And so there wasn't like a big money making thing or anything, but it was kind of how I got into selling records. And then through like eBay in the late 90s and, you know, like stuff like that. Like it was mostly like through record, like punk shows, and then more online in the early days.
Did you do a lot of record shows?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of record shows. All like, you know, mostly just on the West Coast, Seattle, all the way down to, you know, Southern California. So, but yeah, like I haven't done record shows in a long time. I kind of got over like hauling all those records, like loading the car and getting up at like 4 a.m, or actually I'd have to get up at like 2 a.m. and then drive to the record show and, you know, set up. And I mean, there'd be some days where you make a lot of money, and then there'd be some days I'd make like $300, and the cost of the table was like $65. And then if you think about the gas and your time, and then how much money you paid to buy those records, it was like, you actually lost money in the end. So yeah, I'm kind of, now I just go to record shows occasionally to buy,
Right. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. When I did pop-ups, I would bring out like 5,000 records, and that was a huge pain. So there's a guy in the documentary saying that there's two types of collectors. There's the comic books type of collector and the baseball cards type of collector. Which type of collector are you?
Funny thing is I actually came from both. I did collect baseball cards as a kid, but then and I also simultaneously collected comic books. But comic books stayed with me a little longer than the baseball cards did. Like, the thing is my parents tried to get me to play baseball. Like, they wanted me to be like, sports kid and whatever. And I was like little and awful. Like, they always stuck me in left field where like nobody ever hits the ball, like I was like the worst player on the team. And then, finally after like several years of my parents trying to get me to play baseball, they finally gave up. And like, that's kind of when I gave up on collecting baseball cards, because I realized I didn't really like it. I just thought I liked it, and so I would definitely say comic books for sure. Plus I still think comics are cool. I don't read them or anything, but the art's cool, and I like watching all those comic movies, like Avengers and X-Men and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I saw that part and I was like, that's not true. I never collected either one, but I was like, oh man, I did when I was a kid. I was like big into baseball cards. And then like you, when I quit baseball, I just stopped collecting baseball cards. I didn't interest in it. But yeah, that was a pretty funny statement, because I guess that's probably true. So you say in the documentary that you're vegan, straight edge. It's funny, I haven't heard anyone talk about straight edge in a while. When I was young, a lot of my friends adopted the straight edge thing, but now I also know a lot of people continue it. So that's
I don't think most people I know that were straight edge, like at the time I became straight edge, like my little scene of hardcore kids and friends and stuff, like I think 1% of them are still straight edge. It was almost like once they turned 21, they were like not straight edge anymore, because, before 21, it's kind of hard to drink, like, and once you're 20, so it's easy to be straight edge when it's hard to drink. But I don't know. It's like the one thing I've done all my life is stick to straight edge, and I mean, I'm kind of a creature of habit. So I just got so used to not drinking that it's just, again, it's my habit now is to not drink, so it'd be weird to like randomly start drinking, especially being straight edge 25 years, just like it doesn't make sense to my brain to like just start it.
Yeah. All my friends were straight edge, and I was like, I didn't say I was straight edge, but I was like, I don't ever plan to drink because alcoholism runs in my family really badly. So actually I've never drank in my life. So we have that in common.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times, sometimes when I say I don't drink, people, especially the way I look, like I look like I smoke a lot of weed or do some drugs or like, at least drink. And when I say I don't drink, people a lot of times think maybe I had like a problem, like, and I'm sober now, but, like, it's just that, I just got into straight edge hardcore music when I was 15, and it just kind of, it like spoke to me, and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to be. I'm not going to do drugs and alcohol. And that's how it happened.
Yeah, man. One of the things I really liked about the documentary, which I never really thought about this, was, the whole mentality behind the importance of being a musician and putting out art and music and everything, but also the importance of being someone who curates records and brings those old things back to light. The importance of that. I never really thought about that, but that's really true. I don't know if you could talk a little bit about, your role in helping people discover new music and how important it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a musician. I don't make music, like, and so I feel like my part in music is like helping share it. And since, another thing is not drinking and going out and partying. Like, I just spent all my time like buying records and learning music, and just like that was kind of like my addiction, was like I wanted to find out more and more music. Like, if I like this band, what are other bands that sound like it? And I would just keep going and going, and then like it lead me to a new genre, and then it never ended, and that's kind of like, I don't know if not everybody does that. And so it's kind of like I feel like it's my job to just keep doing that and find cool music and, show people. And maybe people don't have time to always be digging for music, but that's my job. So like I have the time to do it. And then, it definitely like when I'm in some parts of the United States, like, let's say Iowa, sometimes there's like a bunch of weird new age music that nobody in Iowa cares about. But then like in California, Los Angeles, like that, it's like really happening. And so a lot of people are into it. And so like sometimes some people will say like, oh, it kind of sucks that you're going around and taking all these records and just taking them all back to California. Like, and I'm like, whatever, those records have been sitting in that shop for who knows how many years, like not selling. And then like I'm bringing them to another area where people actually will enjoy them instead of them sitting in the bins collecting dust, So, I mean, I don't even know if I got off topic or not, but like that's kind of, I feel like my job is to curate music for people and to, make sure records get into homes and on turntables. Cause, one of my least, I get it when you have like thousands of records just sitting on your shelf and you don't have enough time to listen to them, but that you like that music, that one day you could, or if someone asks you if you have it, blah, 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 if you're a DJ, you can use it. But what I hate seeing is like when it's just like a garage or like a storage unit just filled with records that like are never going to be listened to, or like a store that has like just a jillion records in like their storage space and they never put them out. And to me, that saddens me because it's like that person's music isn't being heard.
Yeah, for sure. And like a lot of people, like for me, they'll be like, you stingy record, you record guys that buy and sell records, but what they don't understand is like, I mean, I'm sure you've been like in all sorts of situations. I've been bitten by black widows and chased by dogs and had guns pulled on me. I mean, like everything just so I can find records to bring to sell, and that's sometimes a labor of love because sometimes you don't make a lot of money doing it,
Yeah, totally.
Or do you have any crazy stories about, collections that you went to go buy that went south or anything like that?
I mean, I've been to so many, like I don't remember them all. I mean, there was one time where a guy, like I told him like I wasn't interested in his records because it was cool records. There's a bunch of soul records and they were all amazing titles, but they were just trashed. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I can't really give you anything. And then he was like, well, can't you just give me something? And I was like, no, I honestly could. These are pretty much like garbage. They're unplayable. And then he got up and he like locked his front door and he told me I wasn't leaving till I gave him some money. And like, he was a much bigger guy than me. And I was just like, the thing is I totally lied. I didn't even really like, this was like a total lie, but he fell for it. I was like, just FYI, like I give like my friends and family every address I go to, when I go to buy a record collection just to be on the safe side. So if something was to happen to me, they know where I'm at. And then he was like, he kind of paused and he like looked around and then he opened the door and just told me like, get the F out of here, mother effer, like waste my time. So that was the only time it got real scary. There was one time where I went to a collection in Compton and I show up, my friend and I show up and I'm wearing like a bright blue sweatshirt, like a navy blue sweatshirt. Like I wasn't thinking anything, and then like I'm walking around this neighborhood and everywhere's red curbs, like red fence, red windows, red cars, like everything, like on every house and driveway, everything red. And I was just like, why is everything red everywhere? And then when we got to the guy whose name is Magic Bruce, I asked him, I was like, why is everything red? And he was like, oh, this is like blood territory. And I was like, oh, is it cool that I'm like wearing a blue sweatshirt, because like blue's like Crips colors. And he was like, oh, yeah, no, you guys are cool. Because my friend had long hair too. And he was like, you guys are cool. They wouldn't think you guys were like gangsters. If anything, they think like you guys are drug dealers. So, they're not going to mess with the drug dealers. Like, and I was just like, oh man, like, and it's funny because it's not the first time I've been told by being in a ghetto neighborhood that I look like a drug dealer in the neighborhood and that the drug dealers don't get messed with too much because they usually have bigger people above them, and people don't want to mess with, the drug dealers because one, they supply their needs, and then two, like, you know, you mess with the drug dealer, you got to mess with who's next on the chain, which is worse. So it kind of gave me this almost false, like, feeling of invincibility, like I was invincible in the ghetto, you know, like, oh, well, everyone thinks I'm a drug dealer, so I can
what's that, man?
walk around. Yeah, so I can just walk around the ghetto, no problem, you know, like, so, which I have many times, because the ghetto has some good records, you know. Yeah, I've been in hoarder homes, like, you know, like, there's the hoarder homes that just have like a lot of stuff, and then there's the hoarder homes that are like unsanitary, you know, like, you know, I've been to ones where like there's a lot of stuff, but it's not gross, you know, it's just they have a lot of things everywhere, you know. And then I've been to the ones where it's just completely nasty, like, you know, I guess one guy had a pool in his backyard, and instead of throwing away his trash in the trash bin and put out on the street for the dump to take it, he would just put his trash in the pool, and his pool was just filled with like years of trash, like, you know, it had no water, it was just trash. And then you know, I used to go to this guy's house, and I used to get killer records off of him, but he hoarded like cats and porn. And so it's like every single room just had like, I mean, he had like, I don't know, 50 cats, and like there was just like pornography everywhere, like DVDs, magazines, VHS, like, you know, like all, I mean, it was just like you'd be looking through records, and then suddenly like a magazine, porn magazine, and it was like all types of porn, like gay, straight, like everything. So it was just like, you know, and like sometimes, you know, you'd move a box of records and there was like a cat behind it, and it'd jump out and like scare the crap out of me, you know, and like, but yeah, that guy's house was pretty interesting. I always found good records though. And strangely enough, even though his house smelled really bad, I had to lie to him. I had to say I was allergic to cats, which I'm totally not, but, actually, I kind of am allergic to cats, but I have to just get used to them. After a few days, I'm good. But I used to wear a mask because his place was so gross. But I would tell him that I was allergic to cats, and that's why I had to wear the mask, because I felt bad for like telling him his place was nasty.
Yeah, I think he probably knows that it's nasty, but
yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe not. You know, that's part of the disease, is they don't understand. You know, like. So
you met Lenny K. I bet that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. He's a sweet guy. You know, it's cool to see his house and, you know, a bunch of his guitars. And, you know, it's funny because, like, seeing his record collection was, like, cool, but I was more, like, you know, like, stoked on seeing, like, his guitars and stuff like that. Because, like, I mean, so, you know, in the movie he shows, like, an MC5 record. It's like, I've seen that MC5 record, like, a million times. Like, but I've never seen that guitar that's sitting on his wall, you know? Like, so that was kind of neat to see, like, you know, his like instruments and stuff like that.
Yeah, that seems like it would be that way for me too, for him. But so you have, I think you've got like, how many records you have now? A lot.
Like over 23,000.
How do you know what you have and don't have?
Photographic memory for the most part, but I mean, I pretty much, like, every once in a great while, like, I'll buy a record that I didn't realize I had, and then like I find out I had one. But or sometimes people, you know, it's funny, like sometimes I've cataloged about like close to 8,000 of my records in Discogs, and you know, sometimes I'm like, I hear a song and I'm like, oh cool, that sounds awesome, I want to DJ that, I need to get it, and then I go to Discogs to put it in my want list or to see if there's any for sale, and it already says I have it, you know, which means at some point I cataloged it and didn't realize, you know, so that kind of happens a lot. But I'm not like a person that collects doubles or triples, or, you know, or like, I'm not really a person that collects multiple versions of a record, unless like maybe it's like the cover's completely different and the cover's really cool. If the cover's just whatever, I don't need it. Like, and I'm not like a US, UK or US, Germany type of collector. Like, you know, I don't need multiples. You know, if I have multiples, it's usually by accident.
So was there a point where it kind of took off for you, or have you just been slowly amassing records over the years? I mean, because I know, how long have you been at Glass House?
I've been there for almost 7 years. So July will be 7 years. But yeah, I've been collecting since I was 14. So, you know, we're talking like, you know, that's 26 years of collecting. And again, I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink So I didn't spend any money on that. I just spent all my money at the record store, you know, like, and my first job was KB Toy Store in the mall. And I would go over to Sam Goody, and they weren't selling records. They were selling CDs, you know, but I would buy CDs. And then I got a job. And so every night, like the next day, I'd just go to the record store and buy like records and CDs with my tip money, you know? So like, it was just like, it was back in the late 90s when I was buying records, like when, you know, I was collecting since 94. So in the late 90s, early 2000s, like, you know, Led Zeppelin records were like $3 in stores. And, you know, like you would find that kind of stuff in thrift stores all the time, you know, like you'd find like really awesome records in thrift stores. So a lot of my collection, thankfully, I bought in the late 90s to up into the mid 2000s, where I got a lot of it for like pretty cheap, you know.
So when did you start DJing?
1998. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like most collectors, they'll get to a point to where they love sharing music so much that they want to start DJing, you know?
Yeah, it's fun to play music, you know, and, you know, it's cool when someone comes up and says like, oh, what is that? You know, most time nowadays, it's like, that doesn't happen a lot because of things like Shazam and stuff like that. But, you know, what's cool is when they come up and go, I couldn't find it. Shazam can't find it, you know? And then that's when you know, like, oh, cool, I got something that's like kind of deep, you know?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of times I'll find stuff and like I can't find any record of it anywhere online. You know, how do you price something like that you don't have, there's no record of it? You know, what do you do? I have like a box at the Glass House somewhere. I have no idea where it is, but just a bunch of unknown records. And because I'm always afraid, like, oh, I don't want to price it just in case it's like some super expensive record and I screw up, or, you know, or also I don't want to like say, well, it seems like a $30 record to me and it's basically like $1. So I don't want to do either, you know, so I usually just box them. But again, that's kind of like something that I collect is like, oh, wow. Like as long as the music's good, like if the music's good and I can't find any info, I got to have it in my collection. Cause like, to me, that's like something unique and something, you know, that not everybody can have, you know? So, or not everybody knows about. And then that's like a perfect opportunity for me to like either DJ it or put it on my stories and show people, like, you know, like my favorites, like when I play something on one of my stories and people message me and they're like, oh man, I can't find this on Discogs. And I'm like, yeah, right. You're not going to, you know, good luck. Yeah. That's a little annoying to me sometimes. I love Discogs because it's such a good source of information sometimes, but also at the same point, it makes everyone a know-it-all who has the app on their phone. You know, they're like, oh, well, this on Discogs, medium prices, better, you know.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I see like some record stores put up some rare records and I'm like, you know, like, whoa, I don't know what that is, you know, like I've never seen that. And then like, but like it's getting all these comments like fire, oh, amazing album. Oh, and I'm like, how do all these people know this? Like, I've never seen this record in my life. And then like, sometimes I feel like some of them just genuinely know it because, you know, they went through some rabbit hole and found it. And then some of them like looked it up real quick, listened to it, and they're like, dang, that's good. All right, fire, you know, like, so, but yeah, it's definitely like Discogs and just the internet in general allows a lot of people to know all kinds of music, which it didn't used to be like that. And, you know,
yeah, I think for guys that have been doing it for a long time, like for me, you know, when I was young, records were free, you know, pretty much. And I would find stuff all the time. I didn't know what it was and I'd buy it. And then like, that's how I would discover stuff. There was none of that, you know? And so I learned things the hard way. I'm sure you did the same. And it's just, that can be kind of annoying that it's so easy for everybody now. But at the same time, it's great because a lot of that music no one would even know about. You know?
Yeah. There comes that time where like, you know, part of you wants to be kind of like a snob and be like, like I don't want a lot of people knowing about this. I want to be cool because like a select few of us know about this. But then there's also like, you know, you have to realize these musicians made this music because they wanted it to be heard. And like, it's like not cool of us to like, you know, keep them hidden, you know, away from the world. And that's what's great about DJing and, you know, sharing music is that you can show people something they may have never heard. And now like, suddenly that musician might have like new listeners because maybe they show their friends and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Another thing in the documentary that you said was that everybody has a Billy Joel record in their collection. And that was another thing. I was like, no, I don't have any Billy Joel. And then I realized I have Attila. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're missing out. Like, let me tell you the story. So Billy Joel, you know, he's always been one of those artists I thought was like, just all right. You know, like, you know, doesn't bug me or anything. Doesn't like, you know, he's not like, I didn't think he was lame ever. I used to like, when I was a kid, I liked that video for We Didn't Start the Fire. You know, I like that song. And, he just over time, like sometimes when I'd be in the grocery store, I'd hear It's Only Rock and Roll and be like, oh man, like I know this is Billy Joel, but this is like kind of a cool power pop song. Like, you know, like, but again, I never really was much of a Billy Joel fan other than like, you know, whatever. And one time on one of my trips, I was in New York and I was just like, I didn't have time to stop in New York. I had to get somewhere like, I don't know, Connecticut or something like that. Like, so I just was bypassing New York and I was driving by the skyline and I was like, you know what, I'm going to put some kind of New York song on while I drive by, you know, to fit the mood. And for some reason, the first one that popped in my head was New York State of Mind, which is a weird song for me to pop in my head because I never really listened to that song. And I'm not really, again, I wasn't really much of a Billy Joel fan, but I was just like, well, whatever, I'll put it on. Listen to it while I'm driving by. I'm like, man, this song kind of sucks, like whatever. And then like, you know, it ends and it goes to another song because I was listening on Spotify while I was driving. It goes to another song, Just the Way You Are. And I've heard this song like many times throughout my life on the radio or whatever or something. But it just hit me right that moment. And I was like, wow, this song's really amazing. And like I listened to it for like at least 20 times in a row for the next, you know, hour and a half or something while driving. And then I was like, wow, I wonder what the rest of the album sounds like. So I went to The Stranger, which Just the Way You Are is on. I started listening to it and I was like, wow, what I've been missing out all these years. Billy Joel is like amazing. And then like I started just listening to Stranger over and over and I started going to other albums. And then I kind of realized, oh, wow, Billy Joel is secretly like one of my favorite artists of all time. And I never knew it. Like, you know, like wow. I mean, all my life, I never knew Billy Joel is one of my favorite artists, you know, and now it is. And every single year when Spotify comes out with like, you know, your top listens, Billy Joel is always either number 1 or number 2 because it's like I never stopped listening to him ever since that trip.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I'll do that sometimes with artists, but I haven't really. I don't know. Billy Joel is so always there, so available. Sometimes I just, you know, I don't think about it. I know a lot of his music. It's just maybe I'll jump back in on it and try to rediscover it. So that's.
You got to remember, I always say this, like, yeah, sure, it's great to listen to all this weird, obscure music and rare music and bands, like, you know, yeah, I don't really care about Billy Joel, but I like Attila, you know, like, you know, but like, sometimes you forget that, like, there's a reason why that guy sold millions of records and, you know, why he's so popular is because he writes good songs, you know, and the music's good. And like, a lot of times I feel like people kind of think like, well, if the band's really popular or like the type of people that like their music, it turns them off. But that kind of is sad because they're like turning themselves off to really great music. Like, for instance, I don't know why so many people hate on Red Hot Chili Peppers. I know a lot of people that hate on Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I think they're like a decent band. Not all their songs, like some of their real funky stuff from the 80s I can't get into, but I mean, some of their music's like, it's good to me. But again, I feel like a lot of people just like disregard them because sometimes it's more about their popularity and like their fan base too. Like they don't want to be associated with that fan base or like Sublime or something like that, you know?
John Mayer. John Mayer, people act like he's horrible. I think John Mayer's phenomenal, but
yeah. Okay. Well, that guy, to be honest, like John Mayer, I can't do, not because like his fan base or anything. I just don't like his voice.
Yeah.
So that doesn't do it for me. Yeah, or like Dave Matthews Band. Oh man, I can't get, like, guy is a talented musician. I understand like he's probably one of the biggest musicians in the world ever. Like he makes so much money touring and stuff like that, and he has like millions of fans. But like when I hear his voice, I just cringe. Like it just doesn't do it for me. But it has nothing to do with not liking him because of his fan base or anything, you know?
Yeah, I get that for sure. And I'm the same way with Dave Matthews Band too. But I can hear that a lot of the music is good, but I don't know if it's his voice or what. I just can't. That doesn't do anything for me. But so I'm with you there. So you have a pretty sweet collection of vintage T-shirts as you're sporting one right now.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. So this one's a 1977 Yes shirt. It's got a cool dragon.
Yeah,
Saturn, like, but yeah, like, I used to have a really big fro, and I would wear a lot of Western shirts, like with like crazy patterns and like a lot of embroidery, and like I was always trying to find like the more unique looking Westerns, not just like like a flannel type or like I always wanted something like cool cactuses embroidered or designs and stuff like that. But then once my hair started growing out longer from the fro, my hair would always get caught up in the collars, and it always like bugged me. And so like I started wearing T-shirts, which I hadn't worn in kind of a long time. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to wear T-shirts, I gotta try to find the coolest T-shirts I can find and the most unique T-shirts. And so then that got me all into collecting, vintage band shirts. And I tend to like look for the ones that I don't see a lot. Like if like I don't want to wear some Rolling Stone shirt that looks like it came from Target or something like that. So like that, in a sense, the T-shirts is like a whole, just like record collecting. I'm just like looking for something kind of really unique and cool.
How many vintage shirts you have?
I mean, I would say rough, like somewhere around 500. I have like a bunch in storage. I have some that I like don't fit me anymore, and I refuse to let them go, and like I should probably just sell them and like, trade them out for like a new shirt or something like that, but yeah, I think like somewhere, I don't know, 500.
That's crazy. Because a lot of those things are worth some serious money. Like,
yeah, a lot of the this Yes shirt's probably worth more than 95% of the Yes records out there, you know?
For sure. So I get a lot of people ask me this question, and I'm sure they ask you this. What do you think the future of vinyl is going to look like?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I hope it's good. I mean, I know since I've been collecting records, I've seen it go up and down, like I've seen it be popular. I've seen it not be popular and come back and then go away again. So but I definitely think this recent surge in the last like 5 to 8 years has been good, because I feel like it's been more popular than ever. And part of that, I think, is because of things like Instagram, because people love to show off on Instagram. They love to show themselves off. They love to show their clothes off. They love to show their records off. Like whatever. Instagram is very like all about like showing all your followers and your friends like all about you, whether it's like you're traveling or you got this cool record or this cute outfit or something like that, or cool hairstyle or whatever. So I think with that being said, like Instagram has fueled keeping records alive, because people are constantly like getting, when someone posts a record and a bunch of people like it and say, oh, that record's awesome, it makes them feel good. So it keeps them wanting to have like new content like all the time. And I think that's a really huge reason why records haven't died out yet. And I really think it's because of Instagram,
That is funny. I've never thought about that. I mean, I definitely see that.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Instagram, you might not know who I am unless I walked into your store. You know what I mean? Like,
because the lady that was she contacted me, and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, and I looked you up on Instagram, and I was like, oh man, this is really cool. So for me, my response is always that, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, there were collectors for sure, but not as many people were collectors. Like I feel like now, if you're in vinyl, you're a collector, because there's other way easier formats to listen to music on. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot easier to pull something up on iTunes and listen to it, or Spotify and listen to it. But like you really have to go out of your way to find a record now. And the fact that there's so many people into it. I mean, I know all the time people will just say, hey, I'm getting out of it. I've lost interest or whatever. And I'll buy their collection and whatever. But yeah, that's interesting. You're absolutely right. That's hilarious. So you've gotten to travel a lot in finding records. It looks like that's another passion of yours, that you really like to get out there and see the world. And, that's awesome, man, that you get to do that and find records. And
traveling is like, I don't know. I probably like it. Well, I mean, I like it a lot too because I get to listen to music while I travel, and music's my favorite thing, and so I get to see all these beautiful places. I get to see places that aren't beautiful, and all while listening to music. And and I like traveling too because I work around a lot of people. Like in the record store, as like a lot of people come in, and a lot of people want to talk music, a lot of people want to talk records, and that's fine. And I like interacting with them, but at some point, like I am also kind of like an introvert too. And so sometimes I need a break from constant interaction with people. And the road trips is kind of like my break from that. And I get to just go out and be alone and on the road. And I mean, obviously when I go into the record stores or meet with collectors or buy personal collections or something, I have to interact with people. But I'll have long periods of time where it's just on the road, just me and music, and sometimes I drive with no sound, and I just take in the sights, So yeah, traveling is definitely, I mean, I've been traveling all my life. My mom traveled a lot for work. So, I mean, I got to give her credit. I think that's where I got the travel bug, was from my mom, yeah, I kind of am going a little stir crazy not being able to travel right now. I mean, even just not being able to go 2 hours away is for the day, it's kind of driving me crazy right now.
Yeah. Well, so we're in North Carolina. South Carolina's already opened back up. So I'm super tempted to drive down.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know I don't know if California is going to open up anytime soon, or at least I live in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles is super kind of strict, and because we're a huge city with metropolitan wise, we have 18 million people. So it's kind of scary how fast it could spread around here. But I'm kind of worried about traveling because I heard that some of the borders of the states, if you're coming from a certain state, they won't let you in, or you have to go take a test to be able to cross the border, to show that you don't have it and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of chilling until, and it'll be weird when things go back to, I don't know though, they won't go back to normal right away. I feel record stores, you're going to have to, there's going to be restaurants are going to have low capacities, maybe things like movie theaters won't be allowed still. And, maybe the record store, we won't be able to allow that many people in at a time. So it makes me wonder what's going to happen with Record Store Day,
Yeah, man. I mean, so do you guys do full blown Record Store Day with all the Record Store Day titles and all that stuff?
We do at the Glass House, and usually Record Store Day falls at the same date as one of the weekends of Coachella. So we do Record Store Day out at the Coachella Record Store, but we don't do Black Friday Record Store Day. We just do the April Record Store Day, and I don't order everything. I just order what I think my customers will buy. And I ask them what are you interested in, and if someone said this, I'll order it, but I don't buy a lot. I don't buy 10 copies of one record. I'll buy 2 or 3 because I don't want to be stuck with them if they don't sell. I'd rather run out than have 8 copies sitting around that are basically lost money.
Yeah, I haven't done Record Store Day. We just opened, but I don't know that I will. I mean, at some point I probably will, but yeah, it's kind of scary how much money you can put into it and not get it all back.
I think the smart way to do it is, I think you should definitely do it, and it'll bring new customers. I mean, it'll bring that customer that will only come on Record Store Day, and you won't see them the rest of the year. They'll buy the one Record Store Day release, and they won't even look at the rest of the store. But at least you made that one customer's day, that one day out of the year. You know what I mean? I think you just have to be smart about it. Like I said, order 1 or 2 copies of each record. And if someone complains oh, well, why'd you only order 2? Blah, blah, and just be look, I mean, if I don't sell it, I just lost $23 on the wholesale price or something, I didn't want to order a bunch. Cause I mean, seriously, you've seen it. You go into stores 3 days later and the stores still have a bunch of stock and they're discounting it. And there's 10 copies of some record that nobody wants, and it's sad, and
yeah,
so
and
I think it's
the market. It's not that great.
No. I mean, I think it's some of them are literally $4 markup. Wholesale price is $22 and the retail price is $24.99 or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, man, that's nuts. But so how many records do you think you keep a month?
Me personally?
Yeah. Are you out to where you have pretty much everything you want?
I definitely don't have everything I want. Most of the stuff I want that I don't have is either extremely expensive or extremely rare, regardless of like price. Could be $1 record, but I just can't seem to find it, you know? Or a lot of times it's things I just don't know, like, you know, haven't discovered it yet. But I would say I add like less than 10 records a month to my record collection. Some months I probably don't even add any and I also like think like I come across records all the time where I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool, but I should put it in the shop because like, you know, the shop's got to stay good and stay cool. Like I can't keep all the cool stuff. And like with 23,000 records, like it's not going to kill me to not have it, you know, like
you'll have something to listen to.
Yeah. Like I don't want to get to that point where, I mean, I probably could have by now. I could probably have 50,000 records by now, but I finally, like a few years, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I kind of stopped like really just adding to the collection like crazy, like I used to. And even 7 years ago, I sold 10,000 records out of my collection. Like, so, I mean, right now I could have over 30,000 records if I didn't sell that 10, you know?
Yeah.
So
sometimes you gotta, when I opened the shop, I sold half my records just because I had to. But what do you think you would be doing if you weren't doing records?
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those like go with the flow type of people. I don't think too much about like, you know, the future or, you know, I'm not really much of a planner, you know, I just kind of let things happen. And as far as like, if I wasn't doing records, I don't know, I guess I would just be working a job that would let me have long hair, you know? So whatever job that is, you know, just, you know, as long as I can have long hair, I'd be stoked.
You wouldn't know this, but I used to have hair down to my waist.
Oh, really? Now your beard? Now it's just the beard down to your waist.
Yeah, my beard's. I'm trying to replace it because I'm thinning out up here, so I can't. Yeah, I donated like 17 inches of my hair, and then never got it back. So that was. Dang. Yeah, I started losing my hair after that, and I knew it would happen, but. That was when I wanted to be a rock star back in the day, and then I realized I wasn't good enough. So they say about teachers, those who can't teach, it's the same with musicians and record store runners.
Yeah.
The musicians just offer people records. So tell us.
You can still be a rock star with no hair, you know?
That's true, but the talent is the real issue, not the hair.
Yeah, true.
So tell us a little bit about the documentary. Obviously, we want people to go watch the documentary.
When we made the documentary, I've watched a lot of record documentaries to like kind of. I probably watched like 10 different documentaries on YouTube, like little 20-minute ones, hour-long ones, whatever. I basically watched them to find out what I didn't want to do with a documentary, you know, and what like I thought was boring to watch. And I'm not gonna lie, I love records, I love music, but to me, it's kind of boring to like. Hear people, you know, say the same thing over and over. I love records because like they have like a better sound quality, or you know, like I love records because you know this, da da da. And so like we really tried with the documentary to like do something different. And it's not just a record documentary. It's not just about why people collect records. It also has like an element of travel in it, which is like my job with Coachella, and that's what kind of separates it. Apart from just like your average record documentary, is it's also got like some sort of like story of a journey, like me going around the US to acquire records. And, you know, you get to see parts of the country, you get to kind of see, you know, if we could have made it longer, we would have made like, you know, all kinds of stuff of what it's like to check into the hotels and what it's like to, you know, do all kinds of things. But, you know, like you can only make it so long, you know, it's not like a series or anything. But it's definitely like, and then it touches on, you know, and again, we tried to find people that we thought had like interesting things to say and were a little different. Like, for instance, like I love when like one of the people in the documentary, Mona Lisa, says, the more Jerry curls on the cover, like the more bone is going to be on the meat or something like that, you know, or like the better the record's going to be. So she says something like that. And, you know, you'd think I'd memorize it. I've watched the movie like 20 million times for editing reasons. But, you know, like to me, that's more cool than someone saying, I love the warm sound of a record. You know what I mean? Like, so that's where we, when I was in the editing process, I had 100% creative control of the movie, and I would say, oh, that's really boring, take that out. Like, oh, even though they, like, sometimes the producer would be like, let's take this out. I'd be like, no, I like what that person said. So that's like kind of cool what they said. Like that's not like what you normally hear in record docs. Like, let's leave that in, And I think, so for anybody that wants to see a movie about record collecting, but also about traveling and lots of funny jokes, like what one guy says he spends his money on in Oregon, he says, records plus a couple other things, like we were going to take it up, but we're like, nah, that's funny, leave it in, even though it's a little X-rated, like leave it in. And that's the kind of,
you probably cut it out. I was like,
yeah. I do feel bad for like people that are watching it with their kids and that part comes around, because otherwise, other than that one part, it's a very family friendly movie, but yeah, we just wanted to make it, like I said, like we tried really hard to make it unique and not just another record documentary. And no offense to any other record documentary out there that, where people say, I like the sound of music or I like the way the record sounds, that's fine. But we just didn't want to do that, So if you want, yeah. So like the movie's still available till April 30th. So like, I think like 5 more days. And you can watch it you can stream it on your laptop or your iPhone or iPad or through www.recordsafarithemovie.com. And you can also watch it on your smart TV through the Vimeo app. So basically what you do is you go to the website and you click, you either want to rent it on the site or you want to rent it through Vimeo. And then when you rent it through Vimeo, you go to your TV, as long as you have the Vimeo app, which you can add to your TV. You go to your TV and it'll be in your Vimeo once you rent it. And it's $5. It's an hour and 42 minutes long. I've heard a lot of people say they laughed, they cried, like it made them feel really happy. Some said it made them feel really sad because like they can't be out digging or traveling right now. So lots of emotions come out of it, good and bad, I guess. But it's definitely, if you're bored and you need something to watch, I feel like if you really love music and records and traveling, and maybe you need a couple hair tips, because there are some hair tips in the movie, like, it's well worth the $5,
I will say, I would venture to say I've seen every record documentary, or at least most of them. This is my favorite one. It really is very good. And like, for the reasons you said, like, there's a lot of things in it that aren't really in normal documentaries, and kind of, from me going around digging and stuff, like I could totally feel your pain and your pleasure and a lot of this different stuff, and it's just cool. It's a very true and honest look into what you do, I think, and I, like I said, it's my favorite one I've ever seen. So I'm going to put the links to all that in the description of wherever you're watching or listening to this, so it'll be easily available to you. But I highly recommend it. It's $5 well spent, and then also, I hate that you invested all this into the Coachella record show, and then, this documentary and all this, and then this crap hits out at the same time. So definitely want to support you, because I know you've been working on the documentary for like 3 years.
Yeah. And it was supposed to come out last year, and then because of some issues with Coachella not wanting to release it last year, they asked us to release it this year. So we pushed it to this year, and then it was supposed to like be released through Coachella's live stream on YouTube, where potentially millions of people could watch it through, it's like, just like when you're watching like a performance, like some band playing on the YouTube live stream, it was going to be like that. And then all the coronavirus stuff happened, and Coachella got postponed. And so then the documentary got all messed up, and we decided we didn't want to wait till October to put it out. Plus it's a record, the vinyl soundtrack and the hard copy DVD is a Record Store Day exclusive. It comes out on Record Store Day. So we were like, okay, well, the DVD is going to come out June 20th when Record Store Day happens. So we're not going to wait for the October to release the movie any other way. So we just decided to release it digitally in April, or actually March 27th when it got released. And so, we just wanted to share it with people. So, And, like some people have asked, like, why are you charging? And we're like, yeah, because this freaking film costs like $125,000 to make. Like, it's not like it was free or anything. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I totally get it. So yeah, everyone go watch the movie. It's great. And, but yeah, it's, I appreciate you sitting and talking with me. I know this is not your thing, but,
I'm stoked you stayed strong and asked me to do this stuff for like, I don't know, a year now. And like, I turned you down. This was happened with the documentary too. I turned the documentary filmmaker down like too, like I didn't want, it may seem like I like all this attention and I but like when it comes to this kind of stuff, I get really shy and I it's like one of those things where like maybe you're like, wow, he did that interview really great and he seemed like he enjoyed it. Like as soon as I click, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's over. but yeah, like, so thank you for keeping on me about doing this interview.
No problem, man. And like I've been trying to snipe out some of those Glass House Record Stores Instagram posts, but I'm not fast enough.
Oh yeah, it's pretty crazy how fast they're selling.
I'll refresh the page. And I will, like, one of them, because I was like, I know it's going to be a good price. I don't care. And one of them, I saw the cover and I pushed comment and there was like 11 people ahead of me. And I was like, what the heck? How? I think that my phone's just not fast enough. I don't know. It's
I think like some people probably have faster Wi-Fi than other people. Yeah. And, and I think that's what it is. Or if like you're not using Wi-Fi, you're probably slower. And I know a lot of people are going straight to the Glass House Record Store's Instagram page, like the actual page where it shows like all the photos and the followers and all that stuff. And that's where they're refreshing. So not refreshing their feed. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, yeah.
Gotten a couple really good ones, especially early on. But then now it's just like I wanted that Grant Green box set you posted. And obviously that one went pretty quick. So,
yeah. It's blowing my mind how fast things are selling, but and like at the same time, I feel kind of bad for some people that I see a lot of people try like all week long and not win anything, and like I feel bad because I'm like, man, I hope that person wins something finally, Yeah. So, and some people just keep winning, which is like kind of at the same time you're like, well, that sucks that they keep winning. But it's also cool, like on the business side, where you're like, cool, I could ship them all together, So
sure, but cool, man. Well, I'll let you go take a nap the rest of the day since I probably exhausted you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get records ready for tonight's sale.
Thank you,
yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem.